Hi, I'm Mike Hallahan, Director of Training and Education here at BFile. In this video, I'm going to show you how BFile works in the role of the LSP. So let's get started. First, let's talk about what is a BFile. BFile is an automated, cloud-based software system that's going to help keep you on track to exceed your financial goals. Why do we BFile? What's in it for me? Well, first off, BFile is going to generate more revenue for you. It's going to identify more cross-sell opportunities. It's going to increase your umbrella sales. It's going to save you time by giving you a consistent sales process. Help identify assets that oftentimes go uncovered or covered incorrectly. And last but not least, it's going to set you apart from your competitors. It's going to do more than just an apples-to-apples comparison. How does it work? Well, let's keep in mind that BFile itself is a process. It's not a thing. It's not something that you're going to hang on to in your hand. It's a process, and it's a real simple process. First off, we're going to gather data. At the LSP level, all we want you to do is use our risk calculator to make sure that we're giving that customer the correct limit of liability to properly protect all of their assets. The next step in the process is where we're going to have an onboarding conversation with that customer. What's an onboarding conversation? It's basically where we reach out to that customer, typically done at the agency owner level, thank the customer for their business, welcome them to our agency, ask them if they have any additional questions, and during that conversation, we're also going to ask them, on a scale from 1 to 10, how did we treat you? Were we professional? Then we're going to ask them if they have any referrals. And last but not least, we've now teed it up for that financial services conversation. We've created the perfect profile of our customer so that when we walk into that customer's household, we meet with that customer, we have a perfect idea of what's going on from a life insurance and a financial product standpoint. So what I'm going to do is introduce you to the customer profile page. I'm going to discuss when is the right time to have that BFile customer conversation, and I'll show you how that customer introduction conversation goes. I'll also show you how to create a renewal or a new BFile. I'll take you through the LSP BFile questions, show you the features of the risk assessment calculator, our slider bar, and Zillow's Zestimate feature. I just want to step aside for a quick second and make sure that we all understand that our risk assessment calculator addresses assets and not exposures. For instance, let's say that I have two houses side by side. They both have $900,000 in assets, but one of those houses has an in-ground pool, a trampoline in the back, and even a daycare center that they're running out of their house. Same $900,000 in assets, but that second example with the daycare center and the swimming pool, they need a much higher umbrella because their exposure is much greater. Then last, I'll show you how to use our Save for Later button and how to complete the BFile by using the Send BFile buttons. I'm also going to illustrate how BFile uses social media, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to help you gain a little bit more knowledge of your customer. I'm going to talk about gamification. We've created gamification so that you, the LSPs, have an opportunity to get a little extra spiff, earn a little extra more income by doing a good job and creating lots of BFiles for your customer. I'll talk right now a little bit about our Tango referral program. Instead of giving that customer a couple of choices, maybe it's a Walmart or a Target card for giving us customer referrals, we're affiliated now with Tango. We use the Tango gift card system so that instead of two choices, we give them over 120 choices. This is just an example of some of the places that those customers can choose to use or redeem their gift cards. And also, we've got a wonderful opportunity where those customers can even give those gift cards to their favorite charity. Here's our liability calculator. The reason I put this up here right now is just a reminder. You don't have to do anything. You don't need a calculator alongside your desk. B-File does it all for you. We calculate everything for you, and in addition, you don't need a scratch pad to keep track of the assets that you've uncovered. Every step along the way, we show you icons with a quick little description of what the assets are that we've uncovered. Also, we give you scripts. We give you scripts to make it easy for you to uncover those assets. We give you scripts to help that customer identify the approximate value of the asset. I'll show you just a couple of minutes how we use our slider bar to make it real easy for you to get that information into our risk calculator. And then lastly, how come we're asking these questions? Why is this question so important? You want to know, customer wants to know. At the bottom of every B-File, underneath the Did You Knows, we give you a quick little answer that you can provide that customer. Here's our risk calculator. This is a 2 and 2 equals 4 document. We're going to tell that customer that based on the information that we've uncovered, my risk calculator acknowledges that these are the limits of liability that you need to properly protect all of your assets. Why do I put this screen up here? Just a quick reminder. Don't fall into the quicksand of saying, I got too much to do. It's one more thing. I got a lot going on. I can't do B-File. I get it. I've been there. I've been in your world. You're all really, really busy. But let's just take a minute and understand that when you're B-filing a customer, you really are dealing with two screens. You got your Alliance screen on one monitor. You got your B-File screen up on the other monitor. Whether it's eAgent, Microsoft product, whatever you're doing on the internet, everything else sits behind these two screens. And I would even argue with you that if you follow the B-File process, your presentation to that customer will be that much more efficient, and it will ultimately save you time in the long run. This is a key topic. When are we going to have that B-File conversation? Whether it's a renewal policy review, a new business quote, a walk-in call-in, I'm going to recommend that you begin your conversation with that customer with the B-File conversation. It's going to sound something like this. Mrs. Smith, this is Mike with Allstate. I'm anxious to go over your policy review with you, but before I begin, I just want to take 1 minute of your time to make sure that we're giving you the correct limit of liability to properly protect all of your assets, and I've got a risk calculator here that's going to do that for me. Could be a new business follow-up. Mrs. Smith, it's Mike from Allstate. I'm anxious to go over your new business quote with you, but before I begin, I just want to take a minute of your time because it's really important that I make sure I'm giving you the correct limit of liability to properly protect all of your assets. I get it. Particularly on new business, your customer might just want to get going with their quote. Not a problem. Don't ever lose a sale because you're insisting on doing a B-File right now. So let's take that one step further. You're going through the new business quote with that customer. Let's say you get to the CCDB screen. Mrs. Smith, I see your current limits of liability are 100, 300. Now we know that liability is probably the most important thing you got going for you. Let's just take a minute of your time right now to make sure that I'm going to give you the right limit of liability to properly protect all of your assets. That's okay. Customers still might want to keep going on, get to that final quote. Let's let them go there. At the end of the conversation, Mrs. Smith, now that we've got your new business on its way, let's make sure that we take 1 extra minute and make sure that we're giving you the correct limit of liability to properly protect all of your assets. So you can see it doesn't matter. It works at the beginning. It works when we're having that liability conversation, either at the CCDB screen on a new business or on a policy review, we're talking about new business, or at the end when we're finalizing the quote. B-File works at any one of those times. So now let's go take a look and see how we're going to start a B-File. You can see here I've got a blank webinar screen, and I've gone to our webpage, bfilesystem.com. And that's singular, that's bfilesystem.com. That takes you to our webpage. And I'm going to click on the login link over here. That's going to take me to my login page. It's a good opportunity for you to bookmark this so that you have it readily available at all times on your web page. I'm going to type in my username and password. For those of you that haven't logged in yet, I've got a real simple way of making sure that you can get your password. Type in your Allstate username, click on Forget Password down here. That'll shoot you an email over to your Allstate email. Click on that, and that's a password reset link. Follow that, and then you just click in Login. Takes you to your LSP dashboard. Let me just take you on a quick guided tour of your LSP dashboard. Let's start over here by clicking on B Files. Then I'm going to click on All B Files. Now you'll notice that this takes me to all of the B files that I've created, all of the B files that I'm responsible for. I'm oftentimes asked by an LSP, do I have access to all of the B files in my office? What if I want to look at a B file that a fellow LSP has created? Not a problem. Just going to go about it a little bit differently because clicking on all B files won't get you to a fellow LSP's B file that they created. Just jump up here in the search bar, type in that customer's last name or phone number, and that'll take you to the B file that you want to get to. Let's go down here and start with this red circle right here, P&C referral leads. Earlier I mentioned that we have affiliation with Tango Card. For instance, I just sold an Allstate policy to Mrs. Smith. 2 weeks later, we had that onboarding conversation to Mrs. Smith, during which time we asked Mrs. Smith if she had some referrals. Let's just say that she gives us 5 referrals as a part of that onboarding conversation. Because I'm the one that did the B file, I'm the one that's going to get those referrals. All 5 of those referrals are going to come back sitting right inside of my circle and only my circle. Now do the math. I just got 5 referrals from one B file conversation. Now if you get 5 more from each of those 5 and then 5 more and 5 more, very quickly you don't need any internet leads because B file is going to give you all the leads that you need, and we all know that referral leads are significantly better than any web invite or web lead that you're going to get. Let's go over here to Save for Later. This green circle right here, you know, a lot of times a customer will say, you know what, Mike, everything looks good, but I just want to talk it over with my spouse for a couple of days. Can you give me a call back maybe the early part of next week? Not a problem. I've got a Save for Later button at the bottom of every screen. Now let's just say Mrs. Smith wants a call back on Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Within that Save for Later button, I've got a calendar invite. When I click on that calendar invite, that's going to give me the opportunity to select Monday at 3 o'clock. If that's the case, what's going to happen at that point is that's going to trigger an email coming over to my Allstate email, and that's going to be in the form of a calendar invite. Now I can accept that calendar invite. That's going to pop it onto my calendar, and I can establish the time that I want notification that I need to call that customer, my reminder time. And it's also going to show up in my calendar invite tile over here. Now let's take a closer look at this green circle. I've got 2 Save for Laters inside this circle. Well, I want to see what they are, but I sure don't want to go over here in my B files, all B files, and go looking through 30, 40, 50 B files. Not a problem. Built into our green circle right here is a filter. It's going to filter everything else out, take me to just those 2 Save for Later files. I can click on either one of those 2 customers and go to work and do whatever I want to with those Save for Laters and finish them up. I got a new policy. 6 months from now, that's going to be a renewal policy, assume it's an automobile, and it's going to show up in my blue P&C renewal circle approximately 30 days prior to the effective date. I can go there and work on all of my renewal policies. If I've been given responsibilities to have welcome thank you calls, then all of my calls that I need to be making are going to show up inside this circle here. That's going to get lit up and the same filters apply. If I'm a life licensed LSP, then my opportunities are going to show up inside this tile and circle, and there's a little bit of a built-in redundancy because it's going to show up in my needs attention as well. Down here in these colored tiles are all of my activities. All of my activities that I've created, all of my sent for welcome call, all of my umbrellas. I really like this one here, the household with cross-sell opportunities, because that's a great spot for me to go to go back to my customers and get additional item count, do some account rounding. Now you'll notice that all of these are at 0. Well, invariably at the beginning of every month, I get a phone call. I get a couple of phone calls from an agent that says, you know what, Mike, yesterday I used to have a lot of activity down here, but I came into work today and it's all zeros. Well, the reason is because the default on this is this month. All you need to do is click on all, and that'll take you to everything you've got going on. You can see how these numbers increased. And now I can click on any one of these tiles, and let me show you. Again, I'm really bragging on this household with cross-sell opportunities. A great place to go to get cross-sells. You can see on average are probably 2 to 3 opportunities per household. Great place to go for additional items. What I've got down here, these are all my B-Files opportunities here. This is all of the agents, so I can see how I'm doing versus the rest of my agents. And then down here are my life and retirement activity items as well. I'll talk about this leaderboard in just a few minutes, but if you're ready, let's go create a B-File. So what I'm going to do is click on that B-File button. It defaults to new customer. I can click over here to renewal customer. You can see the conversation changes ever so slightly. And folks, this is a roadmap for you. You're going to use this conversation. Everything is here. Everything is here that I mentioned earlier. We've got a risk calculator. We want to make sure we're giving you the correct limits of liability. Liability limits are really important. And for my money, I'm going to start out and just say, I would just want to take a minute of your time. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start typing in this customer's first name, last name, and phone number. And while I'm typing, I want to make sure that I mention that this is not a mandatory field. You can go straight in, hit your next button, and go straight into your first questions. How many cars or trucks do you own? And that's own, not leased. And you can see how easy it is using that drop-down arrow to identify the number of vehicles we've got. Now it starts to populate my calculator. I've got a nice icon, a short description of the asset that we've uncovered, and I just roll right into my next question. Do you own any secondary vehicles, ATVs, RVs, motorcycles, any toys? And you can see what a nice visual pop-up we give you to identify that in this case we've got 3 assets that we've uncovered. And now I'm going to use my slider bar for the first time. I mentioned earlier how easy it is to get this information into my risk calculator. I just move it up, and you can see up in the upper left-hand corner, as I move up and down the slider bar, it populates my risk calculator. But also, I said how easy it is for the customer. Now, the customer says, you know what, Mike, I'm not really sure how much all of these assets are. I'm just going to say, no problem. Joe, what do you think? Somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000? Joe might say, it's worth a little bit more than that. I can move my slider up and down the bar and make Joe feel very comfortable because I'm giving him a nice wide range to choose from. Now we're going to talk about how many kids are how many kids are at the home or away at college. Obviously, we want to get the kids that we need to as far as drivers go, but this comes into play big time when we have that life insurance conversation. After I identify the children, the next question is, do you own your primary home? And if so, what's the approximate value? Now watch, when I hit yes, customer owns their own home. Well, we don't want to put you on the spot. We don't want to put the customer on the spot. So I'm just going to start typing in the customer's address. And you can see it's giving me suggestions every step along the way using Google Maps. And when I get to the one I want, what I'm going to do is highlight. It's going to complete it over here in terms of city and state. Now watch, less than 1 second when I hit get value. It goes into Zillow and identifies the approximate value from Zillow of that customer's household, moves my slider bar to the correct range, and populates up into my risk calculator. No worries though. If the customer says, I think it's worth more, a little bit less, whatever the case may be, the point is we're not locked into that value, but we've given that customer a very professional place to start as far as their estimated value of their home goes. Now we're going to find out, do they have a mortgage? Because we're talking about the net asset value. Now watch when I move my slider bar over to identify there's a mortgage on this house. We're going to ask that customer, do you have life insurance? Do you have life insurance or mortgage protection insurance to pay off the remaining balance of the mortgage? Now, if you do, what type of policy is it and what's the total benefit? Remember, we're not asking anybody to sell life insurance at this point in time. All we're doing is we're on a fact-finding mission. Do you have life insurance to protect the balance? If you do, what type of policy or what types, because you can select more than one value. Move my slider bar over to identify the approximate death benefit and just roll right on into the next question. Do you have any properties in addition to your primary residence? Any secondary properties? Got a spot here for secondary home, manufactured home, condo, landlord, and even vacant property for that matter. I selected secondary home, move my slider bar over. Very quickly, all we need to do now, what's the mortgage balance on that property? And I go into the next question. Now this is a great reminder for you, great reminder for the customer, because we're going to ask that customer, other than customary items found in the home, do you have any special personal property of significant value? This is all that inland marine items that we need to list on that policy to make sure we've got them covered correctly and make sure we've got the valuation properly set. I move my slider bar over. Next question. Commercial lines. Anybody in the household have ownership interest in a business? If they do, I just hit yes, jot down the name of the business, and then what type of business, and you'll note that we give you the 24 classes of business that Allstate has an appetite for. You just need to highlight that, and then follow up with that customer. Do you have any retirement plans in place besides owning your own business? Most of the time the customer does not own their own business. So I want to find out what's their current employment status. Are they employed, disabled, homemaker, retired, unemployed? I selected employed. Again, jot down the name of the company they work for. Easy one, how long you work there. And now, of course, we want to follow up and find out if this customer has a retirement plan in place. 401k, 403b, 457. You can see we've got little helpful hint bubbles that drop down that will help you identify what type of employment each one of those plans pertain to. Also at this time, I'm often asked, Mike, there's a spot for one 401k, but what if Mr. has a 401k, there's no spot for Mrs.? Always keep in mind that this is total household. So if they both have one has a $200,000 401k, one has a $300,000 401k, what you're going to do is you're going to move this slider bar up to the $500,000 range, and I'll show you in just a second how you can distinguish between Mr. and Mrs. 401k. Now we're going to follow up. Do you or anyone in the household have any of the other type of assets? IRAs, annuities, savings accounts, CDs, brokerage accounts. Again, we got helpful little drop-down bubbles. And again, this is total household. So if Mr. has an IRA, Mrs. has a brokerage account, we're looking at total. So all I need to do is move my slider bar over to the approximate value. And now we're going to remind that customer that their income and future earning potential could be exposed in a lawsuit. At this point, our calculator defaults to a range of $25,000 to $50,000 per year. We're going to ask the customer, are you okay with that, or do I need to adjust it a little bit? So the way that we've structured this question, we make it easy for you, we make it easy for the customer. If the customer says, yeah, that's fine, they might be making $120,000 a year, but at least we've got a little something in here. We've asked the question, but the way we've asked it too, would you like me to adjust it, makes it easy for that customer to get us closer to the limit that they need to be. Here's my risk assessment calculator. Based on the information we discussed, our risk calculator has determined that you need to protect assets in the amount of $2,125,000. So this is my 2 and 2 equals 4 document right here. The customer says this is what you got. I'm just going to acknowledge that my calculator is saying that you need limits of $255,000 on the auto, the motorcycle, $300,000 on the boat, the jet ski, the home, and the cabin up north, but you need $2 million umbrella policy to make sure that we come up over that $2.125 million. It's a great visual. What I can do at this point in time is I can click on this icon up here. That's going to open up my print driver and give me three choices. My first choice is I can put this into my eAgent, follow my eAgent best practices, and use this piece of paper, if you will, however I use my eAgent files. I can also print it out at my local desktop printer. I can stick it in an envelope, send it to the customer, and follow up with them that way. If I got the customer in my office, I can hand it to them. Again, customer takes a look at this. They can see at this point, if somebody says, Mike, you're just trying to upsell me, I'm going to say, Mrs. Smith, I'm not trying to upsell you at all. I'm just trying to give you the correct limit of liability that my calculator says that you need. And my third choice is to create a PDF document of that and attach it to an email and follow up with that customer at that point, as the same as if I would stick it in an envelope and mail it to them. Now I'm going to say thank you and goodbye to my customer, because that's going to take me over to my notes section. Now this is where I mentioned earlier, if Mr. has $200,000 in a 401k and Mrs. has $300,000, this is where you can put that note down. If they've got $300,000 in their brokerage account and $50,000 in their sales, you can put notes down in here too. But what we're really looking for is, tell us a story about this particular customer. Maybe it's I can't wait till all this snow melts because we got new golf clubs for Christmas. We went out east to visit my sister for the holidays. We just got a new puppy. Anything like that. Hobbies, kids, vacation plans. What's going on in their world? That's the stuff we want in this Tell Us a Story, because think about it. Earlier I mentioned the second part of the B-file process is where we're going to have that onboarding conversation, and during that onboarding conversation, these notes are all going to be available to the person that's going to do that onboarding. So at that point in time, that onboarder can say to that customer, oh wow, I can't wait to go golfing either. This snow is killing me. You just got a new puppy. Oh, those puppies grow up very quickly, don't they? What kind of puppy did you get? It tells that customer that we're listening. It tells that customer that we're caring, and it just goes a long way to solidify our relationship with that particular customer. Now we're in the final stage of the B-file. You can see here I put the first name, last name, and phone number of the customer at the beginning, and it pulled it over. If you didn't put it down there, which you don't have to, now it becomes a mandatory field. All you need to do at this stage is put in the customer's birthday in terms of month, use my scroll wheel on my mouse to identify the year. If there's a spouse involved, fill that out. You'll notice from the Zillow page that the address of that customer's house filled over here. Put down the email address because that's going to be real important. Insurance score is not mandatory, and if you're in California, you don't even have to worry about it. But now what I want to do is show you what happens with B-file if we sold a policy or didn't sell a policy. And if it's a renewal, did we renew it or not renew it? In this case, we sold the auto. Easy to use drop-down calendar to identify the effective date. All I need to do is select the term. Most likely that's going to be 6 months. Now let's say we didn't sell the homeowner's policy in this case. You can see that we've given you the 30 top insurance companies out there. All you need to do is highlight who the current carrier is, the drop-down calendar, making it easy to identify the expiration date, and you've got one awesome lead the next time you want to requote this particular customer. Here's my cross-sell opportunities. I started out with 5, but let's say that we sold the boat, we sold the watercraft, and we sold the umbrella. Maybe we didn't quote the motorcycle, maybe we didn't quote the secondary home. Not a problem. We're still left with 2 awesome cross-sell opportunities that are going to sit inside that black tile on top of your dashboard, and it's going to collect and it's going to multiply, and before too long you'll have a ton of cross-sell opportunities. You'll be able to reach out to your customers and hopefully do some account rounding, bring some more items into your agency. Here's my Save for Later button. Customers just says, Mike, can you call me back on Friday or early part of next week? I'm going to hit Save for Later. Then I'm going to hit the Save button. It's going to go inside that green circle on top of my dashboard. But if the customer says, Mike, can you call me back on Monday at 3 o'clock? I'm going to use my calendar function, hit Monday, hit 3 o'clock, and then when I hit save, like I said earlier, that's going to trigger an email going back to your Allstate email in the form of a calendar invite. I just accept that invite, set my reminder time, and then it's also going to show up on my calendar invites on top of my dashboard. But we want to complete the B file. And the way I'm going to complete the B file is I'm going to hit this Send B File button. It's going to give me three choices. First choice is Skip Welcome Call. I tell everybody to use this button judiciously because even though somebody might not have a lot of assets, even though we might have spoken with them before, keep in mind we've got a referral program, and I could have a young couple that maybe not have a lot of assets, but they have a lot of friends, and we can get a lot of referrals that way. So do use that judiciously. If during that conversation the customer says, I don't have life insurance, I need to get life insurance right away. Another example is, I've got about $450,000 in my 401k, but guess what? I'm changing jobs in 2 weeks, and I'd like to speak with somebody right away. By all means, hit that blue immediate attention button. Select who in your office you want to have that conversation with. You're going to get a reminder that says, I understand I'm skipping the welcome call. That's okay because this customer wants to speak with somebody right away about their life insurance, or about their retirement, about their 401k. It doesn't matter. They want to speak with somebody right away. The minute I click on that to understand that I'm skipping the welcome call, that lights up my send button and I'm on my way. Most of the time, however, you're going to send this to have that welcome conversation. When I hit that Send Welcome Conversation button, I get to select who in my office is going to have the onboarding, the welcome conversation. Now you'll note that my calendar, in this case, defaults to 15 days from today. That's the B file default. Keep in mind it's a default though. It's not cast in stone because the LSPs can choose any day before, up into, including today or after, to send that B file. I always suggest if they do select real soon, that's a good spot. Make sure they put a note in there. They hit send, and then it's going to show up on my onboarder circle that they have an onboarding phone call to make. Now, real quick, if I've got a situation where we at B-File will do your onboarding for you, you can hit the Send to Virtual Onboarder button. Everything behaves the same, except instead of selecting who you're going to send that B-File to, in this case, you're going to send it to us because we're going to do your onboarding for you. If you get to this point in time and the customer, for whatever reason, decides that they've had a change of heart, they're not going to purchase your policy at this point, hit the No Sale Archive button. So once again, there's really 4 ways that you can complete this B-File. Skip B-File, send for immediate attention, send for welcome thank you call, or if you're a virtual onboarder, send to virtual onboarding, and hit the No Sale Archive button. Folks, that's pretty much it from an LSP standpoint. That takes you through the logistics of creating a B-File and completing that B-File. But now just think about it again, just to rehash. By giving that customer the correct limit of liability that they need to properly protect all of their assets, you've identified cross-sell opportunities, and you've also identified and created the perfect profile to have that financial insurance conversation. Thanks for visiting B-File. There's going to be plenty more B-File videos for you to learn a lot more about B-File. I just wanted to cover at this point how to create and finish off an LSP video. I'll talk to you real soon. Thank you, folks. By the way, my name is Mike. I'm the Director of Training and Education here at B-File. That's my direct phone number. That's my email number. Please feel free to contact me. I'm here to help you out every step along the way. Thanks again, and I'll hope to talk to all of you real soon.